This is Justin.
And this is Haley. You're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize the conversations around money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi, Toasty. Welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we're so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Welcome to 2021. I wasn't sure we were going to make it.
Yeah, this is the first episode of Price of Avocado Toast in a new year.
Look at us
That's
go.
exciting.
We've now done this for technically 2 years. Look at us.
Oh, can we put that on a resume?
I mean,
Podcaster for 2 years?
yeah, even though it's only 6 months, I would totally say it's 2 years.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you could say it's, I did it I don't know. Just roll with us, guys. If you're listening to this, just tell people you've been listening to this podcast for like 2 years.
Yeah, if anyone calls you for a reference check, make
Yeah.
sure you verify.
And I should just say, anybody on here, if you ever need a reference, you can reach out to us and for downloads and subscribes, ratings and reviews on our podcast. We will be on your resume.
Yeah. I'll give you a kick-ass recommendation.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Mikey? Gosh, Mikey was the best employee we had. That's great. Okay, anyways, welcome to 2021, you guys. We're super stoked you're here. We are back into our interviews. We sat down a couple weeks ago, actually, back in 2020, and talked with Lauren. Lauren has been a follower of ours on Instagram, like, from the jump, and we were super hyped to talk to her because her Instagram handle is, like, six-figure debt, 2 JDs. Like, these are lawyers that are just living in that student loan debt. And we were hyped because we obviously were part of the Six-Figure Debt Club prior to cleaning it up. So we were stoked to be able to get to talk with her.
She was actually the first person to reach out to me when I asked for the listeners to contact us if you wanted to come on the podcast. So I'm really looking forward to this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, here is Lauren.
All right, you guys, we're sitting down with Lauren today. She has been following the Price of Avocado Toast relatively close to when we actually got this thing started, and I know that you've been interacting with Haley a little bit on there, so we appreciate you spending your Saturday night to sit down and chat with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about like what made you want to sit down and chat with us, what interested you in talking money with just a couple other folks in Sonoma County.
So I think that your message is really what called out to me, that you want to normalize conversations around money. And I'm also a millennial couple, and that's just something that resonated with me, that I'm like, we need to talk about this more, get more perspectives, hear how people are doing. And so when you guys reached or asked for reach outs, I was like, okay, I can do this. We can have a conversation.
That's awesome. Do you and your partner talk about money fairly often?
We didn't used to, but now it is like a constant thing. So I have a dog, and I will say that every time we go on a dog walk, something financial, something money comes up. And it's just how we converse. We do have budget meetings as well. So we are pretty open and talk about it a lot.
I love that. I'm so glad that people are even just starting to have conversations, even if you're not doing it like every week or regularly with anyone in your household or family or friends quite yet, just starting to do it will get you so far.
Yeah.
I like that you said that, because one of the things that reminds me of is I recently had a conversation with friends about money, which is a lot different than having a partner conversation with
Oh, for
me.
sure.
And, we're just, sitting around social distance, and she brought up the fact that she wanted to like start investing, but didn't know what like anything was. And we had a financial conversation, and she's like, I've never talked to anyone about this. And I was like, I've never really talked to anyone about this. So I think it's good that we're having the conversations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. What does your budget meeting with your partner look like? Like, do you guys do it monthly? Is it like a weekly thing? Is it like only in emergencies when it's like, this thing came up? What does that look like for you?
So
Or
we
is
have
it only when you're walking the dog?
Or yeah, it's only when you're walking the dog. Yeah.
no, the regular check-ins are the dog walks, but the actual meetings, we kind of have a two approach. We have an annual one, and that's where we set out the entire year, what our goals are, what our big sinking funds are going to be, what the plans are, and we use our prior year income in order to set those big categories. And then we check in again monthly. And that's where, if we have something coming up and we need to reassign money or move it around or decide what to do, like, if a Thanksgiving's coming up, if we need more grocery budget or whatever, then we reassign things and reallocate on a monthly basis.
I love that.
That's awesome. That's like the State of the Union address or something. That's amazing.
We last year for New Year's made this big giant poster, which is in the other room, and we've put pictures of it on Instagram. But it was like our mountain, our debt mountain. It's supposed to be the snowball going down, but we did it backwards.
Yep.
We're climbing up the mountain. But we did that on New Year's, trying to like kind of set goals, but it wasn't. I mean, we did set some goals, but it was just solely focused on the student loans. We didn't have any other goals. So this year for New Year's, we have to do like the overarching financials. I'm taking that idea. We'll do
Yeah,
like
that's
big
pretty cool.
goals.
I like that.
It has taken several years to get to this place because we do have a lot of debt, and that's definitely where we started. And then introducing like other financial goals has been newer, like throughout the past couple of years. Before that, it was more like, how are we just going to stay on top of this? So I think it was a great first step that you guys took to do student loans first, because I think that that's, how you realize what trouble you're in.
Oh my
Seriously.
gosh. Yes. And I would say you don't even know, but you do know. So
Yep.
your Instagram got me thinking, because your handle's so to the point. Six figure debt. Been there. We also have six figure debt and 2 JD. So I'm gonna take the assumption, all the people listening, we just met Lauren right when we started this. So I only know what I see briefly on Instagram. So I love that about this, because it's not like I have known you for years and I know everything already. So I'm gonna take the assumption that you and your partner both went to law school and you have over $100,000 in debt just from student loans. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if you guys are okay with it, I'm fine sharing real numbers
Yes,
on these
go
kind
for
of
it.
things. And I did a couple calculations before we started so that I would have them handy.
Yeah.
All right, so you are correct. We both have JD degrees, and I went to a public school. So I took out, and then after interest accrued or whatever, when I got out, I had 160 by myself.
Damn.
Yeah, and then he went to a private school. So when his interest accumulated at the end of it, he had 230.
Woo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Damn.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
We have a friend who's going through. What's the dental program he's going through?
Ooh, dental.
Is
Oh,
it
yeah, it's just-
UCSF?
Yeah.
Is that private?
UCSF. Yeah. No, that's public.
No, that's public.
That's
Okay.
public.
Oh, so we have a friend that's going through dental school, and every time we talk to him, I'm like, oh my God, when you're done, you're going to have so much debt. But at least he'll start out making decent money. And at least with like law degrees, hopefully you're making some money to pay it off a little bit, but that's still a mountain.
Yeah, so that's one of the interesting things that I, have learned in the past 9 years, is that it's not a guarantee. So many stories and so many people that I hear about graduating law school are not making we call it big law, is where like the traditional big salaries come from. Like only a certain top percentage of people get to make big law salaries. Everyone else, like you're not making nearly as much when you start. And again, if you're fine sharing numbers, I am too. When I
totally.
started out, like I was not even making six figures to start with. So it was a heavy burden, and starting from there, you got to build up, and it took a long time. I was making what, 79 out of
That's
law school.
insane.
And you live in one of the most expensive cities in California.
Most expensive cities in the nation.
That's very low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we have listeners from all over the world and from all over the United States. And we often reference back to, California and us being in Sonoma County, and you don't really understand unless you live in the Bay Area or in certain parts of Los Angeles. And holy moly, wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. And then you leave, graduated, thinking like, great, okay, hopefully I end up making some money at some point, but that's a lot of money to pay off with not much, you know.
Yeah, one of the money conversations that I wish that people had with me around law school and taking that amount of debt is how long 10 years is, because 10 years is a really long time to be paying like over $1,000 a month of student loan debt all the time. So it's just 10 years is a long time to be paying stuff back. And you just don't realize it when you're 20, whatever, and graduating that, you'll be in your mid 30s when you're done.
Yeah,
And it's a hard realization.
for sure. And it's a misconception. Like, at least for me, I'm like, oh, lawyers make big bucks. Like, you
For
get your
sure.
JD, you're ready to rock. Like, let's go. It's this. I mean, it's also the misconception too of what they do, right? We have these TV shows
Hmm.
that tell us what lawyers do, and we see the lifestyle lawyers live, and that's not what it is, right? You get like a Sonoma County public defender, and they're not rolling in dough.
Oh,
They're just
not
somebody
at
in the
all.
public defender's office, like, and there's such a misconception behind
Yeah.
that. It's brutal.
Yeah, there are a lot of different types of lawyers, different levels of salary, and it's not all big law money, that's for sure.
And I really appreciate you sharing those numbers because people really need to they need to hear the real numbers because people don't talk about that. Like, I have one friend I talk money with that, I mean, I'll take that back. I talk money with everyone. But before this all started, before the price of avocado toast started, and before we really got invested in like having these conversations with absolutely everybody on the planet, there was one person that I would talk money with.
I think that you still probably just talked like ranges and you weren't really like super specific,
It
and it
was
was
total,
like,
yes. It was
I get
really,
that.
it was very vague, and it was very like, I I think exaggerated in some sense because like I didn't really know the truthful numbers, so she could totally pull something out her ass and I wouldn't know different. And so people need to know the real numbers people are dealing with because I totally, like you, had this misconception that lawyers, start out making at least $100,000 a year, you know.
Yeah, I think that it's I want to just say something about the talking with friends thing and like the
Yeah.
ranges, and that when you don't know the actual numbers, you're like, oh, it'll be fine. Like, I just pay this monthly thing and it's fine, but you really don't know like how much debt, how much money you're making, and that like it's really not enough to like get out of it in any sort of quick sense. So, I
Yeah,
mean, I get what you're saying with like, it was like a conversation about money, but it wasn't really a conversation about money.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
very vague.
So, do you guys have any other debt besides the student loans, or is that it at the moment?
At the moment, we do not have any other debt other than the student loans. We
Nice.
previously did buy a car, and that was in 2015. My partner, when he graduated, decided to buy a car, and one of our money mistakes, which you guys like to talk about, was that we had way more money for a down payment, but instead we were like, oh, the interest rate is low. We'll just finance a bunch of it instead. And so we only put like 8,000 down as a down payment when we could have probably put double that. And we're like, oh, it's fine. But yeah, so we did have car debt for a little while, but that is paid off.
Nice. It's so easy to do that, though. I mean, I know obviously it's not the same situation because it's not a car, but we went into the furniture store like with cash in my wallet.
We had
And we
planned
were
and
like,
saved and actually budgeted to go buy a new
yeah.
couch, and they screwed us
And we
over.
walked in there and financed it. And we were like, we left like, why did we just do that? Like, we
Oh,
had the cash. Why did,
0%.
yeah.
Yes, 0% for 2 years, and then also what pissed me off, they were having this huge sale. Was it Memorial
I
Day
think so,
or was
yeah.
it 4th of
I think
July?
it's Memorial Day.
Bought our car 4th of July because, okay, I have all these big sales, like I have trauma with all these big sales. But this Memorial Day sale with all the furniture, and basically if you didn't finance, you didn't get a discount. It was only if you were financing.
Tricky.
So everything was full price if you were going to pay cash. But if you financed even just a little bit of it, then you'd get it was a huge discount, like 50% off. So, I mean, we totally could have put down like almost the whole couch and then just financed a little bit, which still would have been stupid. But we were like, oh, let's just save the cash for us now and then pay this back later because it's 0%. And it just was so.
And where did that cash go?
Oh, we blew it, of course, right? I mean, I say blew it, but yeah, you just put it back into your bank and you spend it. And it never goes to what it was allotted for.
I don't think we got the bill for that Ashley's Furniture thing for several months.
Yeah.
So then by the time we got the bill, it's not like we were like, oh, let's go put that $2,000 back on that couch.
Yeah. We were just
horrible
mistakes.
So, Lauren, what would you say your relationship is with money now?
Now, I still feel a lot of guilt, I guess. So I'm still working on having a healthy relationship with money because now that I know real numbers and now that I know real budget stuff, like I feel guilt more than anything when I like make purchases go over budgets, things like that. So that's my unhealthy part of it, is that I still feel a lot of guilt. The healthy part of it that my partner likes to talk about is control. So there is this sense of control, and his whole thing is like, we tell the money where to go, the money doesn't tell us where it's going.
I like that.
So that is something that he's better at, and I'm learning to like a little bit more. So that is something that is that control, and there's also guilt.
For sure. What got you into like I don't know if it's Instagram finance, but like what got you into wanting to have an Instagram that was centered around finance and centered around your debt rather than just having like your own, family and friend Instagram?
I think that I started following hashtag debt free community first, and I learned so much. Like learned what a sinking fund was, learned like about 401ks, learned about like investment. I'm not investing now, but I will later. Learned about snowballs and avalanches and things like that. And the fact that like there are real people sharing real information is why I was like, oh, I could do a Instagram and tell my story and, learn from people, let people learn from me, and, share information.
That's awesome. And I think that that's a good point talking about learning from you, just because like you said, 2 lawyers in the home, like that's a very niche situation, but of course there's going to be people who get their law degrees and they need to understand what they're getting into and like what is not only ahead of them, but what they can achieve if they're intentional with their money and stuff. So I think that's important because a lot of people don't always put up front what their career path is. They'll just say like, this is my debt. This is what I'm doing to work through it. But if you say like, hey, this is my debt. This is where I've accumulated this debt. This is what I'm doing now to actively take care of it. People need to see that, even if it's just a handful of people. I think it's important at least.
There's definitely like debt-free community lawyers out there. We're all part of Six Figure Debt Club mostly. So yeah, but
I use that hashtag.
Yeah.
there are some people who just graduated who have followed me and are like, yo, what do I do? Like, this is about to hit me well, it's December, so I'm sure their student loans are about to capitalize or whatever.
Oh.
And they're like, what did you do? And I'm like, I did a bunch of different things, so I can tell you about them. And so that I think that it is good to share information back off of what I've done over the past 9 years.
So you are 9 years post-grad?
Yes.
How much debt do you guys still have to pay off? Do you know that number?
I do. It is 130.
Ooh, nice
Thousand.
job.
But that's
Thousand,
down
obviously.
from yeah, $130. We're paying it on Monday. We're walking in there and only paying in pennies. Damn it. That's
great progress.
Yeah, down from almost 400,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was up to what was it at 390?
390.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that's without.
I'm
out
giving
the
you
car.
an air high five through the Zoom
Back at
call.
you.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And that's without the car. So you're over 4 with the car.
Yeah.
Damn, y'all are
Wow.
troopers.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
How long have you guys been in this like debt process? Because obviously it hasn't been the full 9 years that you've been working towards the paying off debt, right?
That's right. So I think my partner got a little bit more serious around 2016, 2017, and I was like, whatever, it's fine. And then in 2018 is where we like crunched numbers, figured out student loans. We figured out our daily interest and how much
Oh
Oh.
that
no.
was.
Oh no.
He like
What was it?
crunched the numbers. I don't remember what it was back then, but right now we're paying like
Probably 100.
we're paying $800 a month. So divide by 30. I'm a lawyer, not a math person, but that's what we're at now. So it was obviously way more than that before we started paying. And when that all got together, that's around like August 2018, and we had 263,000 at that point when we got serious about.
So in a little over 2 years, y'all have crushed $130,000 worth of debt, roughly.
Yeah.
Holy smokes!
That's awesome.
That is legit.
So you live in you live in San Jose. If people who are listening don't really know what that is, it's in the Bay Area in California. Really freaking expensive. So what did you do like lifestyle wise to help, not live what's it called?
Like lifestyle inflation. What'd you
There
do
we
to
go.
not inflate your lifestyle as lawyers?
Living somewhere that's already ridiculously expensive.
Number one, we lived with roommate. So um, the major cost savings that we had was on housing. And we lived in an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, 2-bath apartment. And we lived there for 2 years. Previous to that, I had roommates as well. And so our housing costs have always been pretty low to avoid the high cost of living rent situation. And again, I like sharing real numbers. So when we lived with a roommate most recently, our rent in the 2-bedroom, 2-bath was about 1,800.
Holy smokes!
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, all you people in Kansas.
That's how we saved.
Yeah, for real. People are like,
That's a-
"What? That was the savings?"
Oh my gosh, that's a 5,000 square foot home over there.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
Believe me, I've looked. Zillow and I'm like, what can I get for this payment?
For real.
We do that too.
What was it like sacrificing that comfort and like having a roommate with you guys? Was that difficult at all?
So I would say that in the beginning it wasn't too difficult because we always had roommates. We actually like got married and had roommates at the time and stayed with those roommates for several years. Um, but through the years it has gotten harder. I think part of it, we got a dog and that was hard to have a roommate and a dog. The 2-bathroom thing is clutch because that way you're not overlapping. But the kitchen was always kind of a hard pushing point. So that was hard. And then I will say that 2020 pushed us over the edge because now that we were all at home, there was not enough office space for all of us to work and live in the same 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. So we did actually end up moving out in 2020, and now my rent is 2,800.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I can't even imagine having to all be at home at this. It's if everyone's working full time, it's easy to just come and go and whatever. But we've literally spent since March together nonstop, almost 24/7. So that would be really tough.
And I like you.
especially- Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
I
you're a
chose to be
good
with you
roommate.
forever, and I'm like, there's days where I'm like, damn, like, are you gonna go teach in the office today or what?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that would be intense. So the roommate, are they like into the financial movement? Are they somebody that you can like talk, or I shouldn't say were they, now that y'all are out on your own, were they somebody that you guys talked with at all, or
So
was it other friends, or?
Yeah, so it was another law school grad, and he was all about paying off his student loan debt. So that's why he was
Awesome.
into living with us and not having to have a 1-bedroom by himself and save on some rent. So he was about that. But other than that, we didn't have too many financial conversations other than him letting us know about his progress. And then he actually got out of student loan debt June this year. So we're psyched
That's
for
awesome.
him. Yeah.
That's super rad. What do you think is the uncomfortable part, or what do you think people have discomfort with when they talk about money with friends? What do you think causes that?
Tradition, the way that you're brought up, um, not being on Instagram, debt-free community.
For sure.
I don't know. I think that people worry about being judged. I think that people worry that they're judging others. Um, it's just not something talked about a lot. So I really appreciate listening to you guys all the time because I get to hear a bunch of different perspectives.
Thanks. We appreciate that.
Thank you. When you said earlier that you still struggle with guilt of just like maybe it's past things that you've done or things that you're doing now and you're still trying to figure out like out how to totally budget. I reposted something recently on my own personal Instagram, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like, "Don't punish yourself for making mistakes in the past and like doing things wrong when you didn't know better. Like you know better now, you're trying to do better, so just move on." And I had posted like, "Yeah, Justin and I in 3 years accumulated $27,000 in credit card debt, bought financed a $50,000 car. I'm pretty sure we put $1,000 down on that. Bought a financed $10,000 worth of a timeshare, but we also put some on credit cards. The whole thing was worth like 16 to 18,000. And then we started out with 135 plus for 1,000 for student loans, and people were like, "What the heck? How did you guys do that?" And I'm like, this is the reality. Like, this is where we are, and I have to be that frank with you in order for people to be comfortable with their own numbers, I feel like. Because I know I'm not the only one in $27,000 worth of credit card debt. I know I'm not. I know people who by one person have that much debt, and that was the two of us combined. So it's not it's having that much debt sucks, but realizing that you have it is kind of the first the first step, realizing you have a problem and then going to fix it.
I 100% agree that sharing your numbers lets people be more comfortable with having the conversation and being frank about things. And you know, the whole like not everyone's going to be on a debt-free journey, and sometimes I'm like, how I do listen to Dave Ramsey too, that like it's weird to be debt-free and that most people have debt and they think that that's the way that things work. And I don't know, that the conversations need to happen so people know, yeah, it is normal. And yeah, there are ways that you can be debt free if you want to be.
For sure. I agree with you though that like once you start to get on that debt-free journey, it is still easy to have guilty moments, right? Like there are times when we might have something in our budget and we might spend according to that budget and I'm still like, "Damn. Like was that right? Was that the good choice? I don't know." And then I have to check myself like, "No, wait a minute. Hang on. That was in our budget." Like that's what that is for. We're telling our money where to go rather than it telling us where it's going, and that's important. But I think it's easy to fall back into that mindset of feeling guilty with money because if you've already had a toxic relationship with money, it's easy to fall back into those habits.
Yeah, it's like these things, yes, you budget for them, but when all the extra money is supposed to go to student loan debt, you're like, "Oh, it could have been more or I could have
Yeah,
done more." And it's just this like, I wish it was more or kind of thing. That's where the guilt comes in.
I feel that.
Yeah.
We had Starbucks twice this past week, and it was so good. Every sip, I was like, "Damn, this is heaven. This is so
But
good."
one time it was gift card.
Okay, so one time we paid for it. There was the gift card that got me thinking, "This is so good. Let's go do it again."
Yeah.
But I did kind of feel like, okay, that was probably not necessary to go to Starbucks and splurge $20 because we both got drinks and I got a snack and
You're like,
could have gone towards my loans, but it was, I don't know, it was necessary. I needed it.
totally understand the guilt, but also totally want to reassure you that you'll be okay.
Yeah.
We are Keurig coffee drinkers on the daily. And then on the weekends, we will go to Starbucks and do that mobile order and walk with our dog and our coffee and enjoy every sip of it.
Nice. And have money talks. I like it.
Yep.
What's the most difficult like budget line item for you guys? What's the one you guys struggle with most? Because I feel like many people, it's the same thing.
Like without a doubt, the groceries. Yeah.
Okay, I got two for you. So
Okay.
it used to be before 2020. We have this like weird category that works for us called gifts, eating out, and vacay. That's like a combo category that we put together that is kind of like fun, I guess, is a bigger word for it. That one used to be a big problem. Like couple nights out or like, going out to eat too much and, booking a budget and going to Tahoe and renting a house, like all those things that used to be a problem staying in that category. 2020 has changed that, obviously. And now the struggle category is actually our like household personal care items because I'm constantly like, oh, I want new linens, or oh, I think that we need a new TV stand or whatever because we're home all the time. Or so I'm like, all right, that's the category that I'm having problems with now.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
will-
Yeah, if I got to sit here and stare at the TV stand, we're getting a new one, damn it.
Yeah, I will say that, as most people, groceries always like fun to try and deal with. But
Fun. That's a good way to put it. Fun to try and deal with.
I feel the home supplies though because we got some dishes for our wedding. I don't know. I put Target dishes on my registry, which was the first mistake. I didn't put nice dishes on the registry. I put Target cheap dishes. Anyway, they are super chipped, and I got to take a picture and put it on Instagram. I told Justin once before I got to do that, and he was like, that's a little weird, like to put our chipped dishware.
I don't
But
know.
but I'm like, we really have to buy new dishes. This is like cheap shit, and it's just chipping. But we still have not bought new stuff yet.
but you want
But I
to.
really, really want to.
For
I'm
sure.
like, it's all chipped.
Did you guys ever shorten the gifts eating out vacay category to like an acronym? Did you guys ever call it
No.
anything?
Have you
goofy?
come up with one
You
for
say
us?
that? No, but I'm like, damn it. They like, hey, can you put that in the gifts eating out vacay category? Like I wonder if you say that every single time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird and like acronyms.
You
I
do.
don't know.
No, it
You wanted
definitely
this to
is
be T-pote.
gifts, eating out vacay, and that's kind of how it's gone.
I like it.
Is it still combined?
Yep.
I love it.
Still
It's
keep
so
those
random,
together.
but it works.
I have a little like fangirl moment of the fact that when I listen to your podcast and that you guys talk about, well, Haley talks about her Amazon problem a little bit. And I have a tip that I have learned from my own prior
Please.
Amazon problem. One of the things that really helped was instead of having Amazon be the charge that I'm like tracking in my budget, I actually break it down by what the item is. It's harder because you got to pay attention like, oh, if I get a baby thing and then I get, a fan and then I get dishes, those all kind of go in different categories. But if you break it down, you'll start tracking it a little bit better and you'll realize like what you're actually buying and what category it's going to. So that's my little tip to see if it'll work for your
I like
Amazon
that.
problem.
I appreciate you being on my side with that. I really appreciate the help.
Today he's like, can you please go in the every dollar budget app? That's the one that we use. There's like 5 Amazons that need to be
Sorted.
categorized.
For real. It was like Amazon Marketplace, Amazon, and I'm like, there's literally like taglines after Amazon to make it like some bougie different Amazon. Like this is all Amazon.
Yeah, well, I bought some. We haven't really told people this on the podcast yet, but we're having another baby. So I bought some new maternity clothes and purchased. They gave me a choice to do it through Amazon, so I didn't have to get off my butt and like go get my card and put the numbers in. So I did it through Amazon purchase.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
you.
But certainly doesn't help with the Amazon problem, clearly. So we're still stuck there. Oh well.
That's too funny. So, Lauren, when do you guys plan on being debt-free? Do you have, like, a date in mind to get over, what is it, 130 you said? 130,000?
So funny you should ask. We actually did our full on like annual budget meeting today. So I actually have a date in mind now, and we will definitely, like, if we don't go kind of crazy, be debt free by December 2021.
Awesome.
That's rad.
We have so this year we did not pay anything towards our federal student loans and just literally transferred what we would have transferred for student loans into a high yield savings account.
We've been doing that
Brilliant.
too.
Brilliant.
That's awesome.
Because
But it
zero
wasn't in a
percent
high yield. I
Oh,
mean, there were what were you guys? What was the earnings on that? Like,
what it used to be. Okay, no.
yeah,
So it's an Ally high yield savings account, and when I opened it, this is gonna be so sad. When I opened it, it was 2.25, and
it's like
now
one
it's
five.
point 0.5. No,
Oh
point 0.5.
no, bummer.
oh
But at least
no.
it's something.
Yeah, that's great.
That's still
Yeah,
something. That's smart.
take it and hoard it and then put it on.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're going to do is that we've been transferring what we would have gone to student loans because they're at 0% right now. So I'm not going to pay them and just get a little bit of interest at least because it started a little higher. And then we'll make one lump sum payment of everything that we've been saving since March. Right now, I don't have that number handy, but I think that it's about 50,000
That's
that we'll do
awesome.
at one time.
That's
That's gonna feel
amazing.
good. Yeah, that's gonna feel real good.
Yeah.
That's gonna hurt, and then it's gonna be like freedom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about having my bank account be so low.
That's
You're like,
what
wait, I really
That's the
like having
hurt.
this. Yeah.
That's the hurt.
that's what happened when we first went. We went camping. We've done two of those like hoards since March, and then put the money on. But it was only like 4,000 or so at a time. Or well, we did sell our car too, so that was more. But every time we did that, I was like, oh, this is great. I like having all this money in the account, and then it goes down to nothing. But then I am rejuvenated as the notices come in saying this loan is paid in full. That your loan is paid in full. Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, another one bites the dust.
For sure.
Get rid of it.
But it definitely is. I mean, something like 50 grand, I'd be like, oh shit. I mean, it feels good, but the other part's like, damn, I really liked hoarding that.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you and your partner. Did you happen to consolidate your loans from law school, or did you keep them separate as a bunch of tiny little loans and go do it that way?
Combo of both. So for my loans, I took, oh man, I don't remember the number, 50,000 of it, and I refied only 50,000 of it because I was a scaredy cat, and I was like, well, what if something happens? Like, then I'm gonna lose all the protections, and I don't want to do all of it. So I did just like a portion of it to get a lower interest rate, and that got consolidated or whatever the term would be when I refinanced some portion of it. And that's what I did with mine. For my partners, his has remained its Fed loan. So they do like each year, each amount that came out is its own loan. And so those are all separate, but they're all within Fed loan. But they all have different interest rates. So that's kind of annoying. But
Yeah, I bet. He went to, you said private school too, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so there's probably a ton of different little loans and random interest rates and oh yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's how
there
mine ended
were
up.
I think there were 3 per semester or something like that. Like there's a lot of little ones. But we did, you know, Dave Ramsey style rank them by dollar amount, even though they were the same provider, so that we could feel that sense of achievement when we paid off a $5,000 one and then a
Yeah.
$6,000 one. So we did do that. Even though they're the same provider, I still felt like we snowballed them.
That's cool. What's the plan when you guys do end up debt free? Do you guys have like, okay, this is the first thing we want to do, or this is the next goal? Because I mean, you guys have graduated law school. You're obviously very goal driven human beings. Like, you don't just end up doing that and being like, oh, I just thought it'd be cool to go to law school. So, like, do you guys have the next goal in mind or the next thing?
It's definitely my goal, and my partner's jumped on board. But we are team save for a down payment on a house, which is why your
Yes.
home buying series was super interesting to me because I don't know how to buy a house. I know a
Right.
little bit more now, but as you know, in the Bay Area, the target number for our down payment that we're looking for is 200,000. So reverse what I had in debt and put that into savings now is kind of what we're planning on doing next is to try and save up 200,000 for a down payment on a house in the Bay Area.
That's rad. So you guys want to stay around the Bay Area for a while then? Plant
Yep, that's
roots
the
and
plan.
stick around? That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, well, I mean, you're on the right trajectory. If you're able to crush 130 by next December, you're certainly on the right path. But, yeah, for all those people that listen in the Midwest who are like,
That's a house.
$200,000 for a down payment, like, yeah, y'all enjoy your big old homes that are 115,000 or whatever. It's just ridiculous.
I actually just spoke to a friend this week about that. I was like, hey, do you plan on staying in this area? Because it's really, really expensive. I'm trying to convince everyone to leave. But, I was like, a $500,000 home where we live is a straight shack. And you need at least $100,000 for that, unless you want to pay private mortgage insurance, and that's inconvenient. And he was like, "What? $100,000?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you should move."
Yeah, my parents left the Bay Area 3 years ago and went to Sacramento, which better, but not like the Midwest or anything. Um, so I guess like Sacramento could be on the like option for eventual moving, but mostly planning on staying in the Bay Area. But I do think that having conversations from different people in different areas so interesting. Like when you see on Instagram the posts about like, hey, tell us like your rent, how much milk costs, and like a six pack of beer or whatever, like so interesting. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts a lot, but I find it so interesting how medium and lower cost of living areas, what it's like being there.
Yeah, it's almost like a totally different world.
I just sent you a house today on Zillow, and I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, "This here would be $1 million at least."
Yeah. Just insane.
What
the
was
difference.
it?
It was like
600.
600,000. Yeah, kind of closer towards the Sacramento area, and
But
it
I'm
was
like, that's
yeah,
ugh.
it's just insanity.
It's not $1 million home. Like when I think of $1 million home, I think of MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. That's a
No.
millennial show.
What?
Oh,
That's a millennial show.
Yeah.
I remember MTV Cribs
yeah.
and
Yeah.
watching TRL when we got home after school.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Oh man, that's what I think of. The basketball court at your house, movie theater in the house, Olympic-sized swimming pool. That is $1 million house, not a 2,500 square foot home with a dinky pool.
Yeah.
No.
Barely. Not even like here you wouldn't even get a pool.
Oh, I
That's
know.
for sure.
You're lucky to get
San
a
Jose
backyard.
is a
yeah.
whole nother
Seriously.
Silicon Valley.
So, Lauren, what's the mistake that you've personally made that you would stop somebody from doing? I know you've heard this question on our podcast before. Like, what's the one that you're like, oh my gosh, please don't do this?
All right. So my personal one, which is not Dave friendly, was I stopped investing in my work's 401k when we got on the debt free journey. And because I thought you were supposed to go all in and just stop everything. And I really regret that. That's the time value of money, even though it was just I did it for a year and then I was like, oh, I got to start contributing to that. I felt like I missed out, and that like getting into the market early on like your work 401k that automatically comes out of your check. My firm doesn't match or anything, but still like that's something that I was like, I wish I would have just kept going with what I was doing just in some dollar amount to stay in my 401k and have that money just grow passively while I do nothing. That's mine. I have another one as a couple, and it's not one that we've talked about actually. Um, at some point, we switched to an income-based repayment for my husband's loans, and we regret doing that without thinking about it because the way that it worked was like it capitalized once a year and just dumped interest on it. So much interest. And so the stop sign that I would put up is research, know what you're getting into in these different types of payment plans. Because I was just like, oh, lower payment, this is wonderful. But it was something that we didn't think about. We thought we were doing the right thing, but really we should have thought about it more, learned about how the interest worked and what was going to happen by not paying full amounts for years at a time.
Yeah. Oh man, that's brutal. That would be hard to see that interest drop and be like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
When it all hits, be like, oh my god, I thought I was doing something right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm doing all the payments that they told me to, but
Yeah.
then,
You just get slammed.
yep.
Brutal. So is there anything else that's in the Ramsey plan that you guys have done that you're like, he doesn't really say to do that? Because we've certainly had our moments, and I think that obviously Dave Ramsey preaches like stick to the recipe, don't venture out. But I think there is this interesting place where people can kind of tweak things to make it work for them, and they might still end up on the right path, even if it's not as fast as Dave Ramsey would have said they could have gotten there, or whatever it may be. For us, it was pulling out some of my Roth contributions to pay off credit cards. And he would be like, what are you doing pulling from your retirement? That's foolish. Or something like you, where you're like, I wanted to get back in the market. I wanted to have that time that I'm investing. Was there anything else that you guys did that you're like, it's not super friendly, but it worked for us?
Yeah, so the Dave-ish things that we do, I could not tolerate only $1,000 in my account
Emergency
as an
fund,
emergency
yeah.
fund. That just would not. One, it doesn't fly in the Bay Area because
For sure.
any emergency here
Yeah.
would be more than that. And then my comfort level was just not that low. So that's an ish thing that we do. That's not on the plan. And then retirement is in there. And then for some period of time, we were doing a little bit of saving for a house. At the same time, I did pause doing that though, but that's something that we did for a little bit just for my, I had house FOMO as my friends started buying houses, and I was like, we must start now.
Yeah.
I've gotten over that a little bit. So
I do want to point out to all the people that are listening, we actually interviewed someone last week, and you haven't heard this yet, but someone from the the avocado toast budget, and she was saying, she does things a little differently too. And we talked a lot about how, you have to make it work for you and what works for your situation, where you live, your family, and all of that. But even all these ish things, you've still paid off so much freaking debt.
thanks.
And you
Yeah.
are going to be debt free very soon. Like that, a year from now is like going to fly by.
I definitely agree, and I think one of the like huge feelings of accomplishment that we have is that he graduated in 2013, so that will mean that we did it quicker than 10 years.
That's rad.
And that's amazing. Like doing it faster than technically what the federal plan would be if paid what they said over the 10-year plan, which is the base model for federal loans. That makes us really proud that we
Yeah.
were able to do that.
That's super dope. I like that. But I definitely agree that the $1,000 in California is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And Dave Ramsey says often, like, the math in California is the same. They don't change their math. And I want to be like, you've never lived out here. Like, it's kind of crazy out here. Like, yeah, I mean, $1,000, good luck.
Well, even an emergency for your dog where you live is going to be significantly more expensive than someone in Bakersfield. And people don't understand that. Like, they take the location and they just blow it out of proportion. And Silicon Valley is probably the worst out of the whole state with like, oh, let's just raise everything up just because we can, and then it is what it is.
It is really like everything is high costs for living here, and in vet care and food and things like that. It's all high.
Like New York City. That's what it reminds me of. I'm like, oh, it reminds me of like living the city life, but you're not in a crammed area, but you kind of have to be if you want to be able to pay anything down. You have to live with people and do those things. So,
For sure. It's pretty wild. Well, Lauren, we won't take too much more of your time. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. We're stoked that we got to meet you, and we appreciate, obviously, all of your support on the podcast. But it's been cool having somebody reach out that wanted to chat. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I had a good time having the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, we hope you enjoyed that interview. I think it's crazy to think that in just a short amount of time, Lauren and her partner are going to be out of $400,000 worth of student loan debt. That's just ridiculous that it got that high, but it's dope that they're able to take care of it. So props to them and props to you if you stuck around to listen to this conversation. Lauren, shout out to you. Thank you for coming on the podcast. As always, you guys, a reminder, if you want to come on the podcast, just reach out to us on Instagram. We'd love to chat with you. We're pretty cool people in real life, too. It's not just a podcast where we act like this.
We would also really, really love if you could rate us and submit a review. The reason is rating and reviews will boost our visibility on Apple Podcasts, and then more people will be recommended this podcast so we can keep spreading the word.
Yes. Shout out to subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that fun stuff on Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
That's going to be a wrap for this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are so thankful that you stuck around to have this conversation, and we're so grateful to be a part of this community cruising into 2021. As always, happy budgeting.
We've got this, Toasties. Thank you for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend. We'd love to continue building our listening community.
If you're interested in speaking more with a financial coach, hit up our coach Ryan at MeFinanciallyFree on Instagram. Use the promo code HELP50 in the consultation notes section to receive 50% off.